Bonjour à toutes et à tous, je suis ravie de vous accueillir aujourd'hui dans ce nouvel entretien sur Rheum. Nous avons le plaisir d'accueillir le professeur Marteen Boers qui va nous parler des différentes techniques et façons de visualiser les données sur les supports scientifiques. Good morning, Professor Marteen. Thank you for accepting our invitation. First of all, could you please define what's a scientific data visualization?
Okay, scientific data visualization is anything you do to make your study results visible. And if I'm childish, even the text that you write, which becomes your article, is already visualization, because letters are dots of ink on paper and they're visualization. But if I'm a little bit more precise, I would say scientific data visualization is the tables and graphs in your article or in your presentation.
And what are the principles of this scientific data visualization? What are the minimum that we recommend?
Yes, when I give lectures on this, I always tell my audience there's only 4 words that you need to remember of this lecture. They are clear vision and clear understanding. Those are for me, the key principles of good data visualization. And then, of course, I go on to explain what they are about. But in 1 or 2 sentences, clear vision is about maximizing the signal to noise ratio, which means show the data and make everything else small and very in the background so that it doesn't become too prominent, but show the data prominently. That is clear vision. And clear understanding is that when you make a table or a graph, you have to tell a story that brings the message of your data across.
So it's maybe the first principle is to have a clear story to tell, and then think about how to use the table and the graph, because if the scientists don't have the story, it's going to be difficult.
First, you have to know what your message is.
Yeah.
What is the message, or what are the messages? And then once you know for yourself what the message is, then you can think about, how am I going to communicate the message, and what is the best way to communicate the message?
And when we should use a graph, and when we should use a table, there is some situation when the graph is better than a table and other.
Yes. So if you can put your message into 1 sentence, you can just type the sentence and people will read your sentence and they will understand. If your message requires a lot of numbers, and the numbers need precision, then a table is best. But if your message has a lot of relationships, then a graph is best. So that's sort of the basic choices you have.
And for the graph, could we use all the graphs like camemberts, histogram, and whatever else for all the data, or there is some data which is more specific for descriptive studies and some other with analytic?
Of course. So I while you're asking the question, I'm learning something new, because now I learn that the graph I like to tease people about most is in French called the camembert, because it's the pie graph.
Camembert, yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay. So in my lectures, I always say the choice of graphs for good graphs, or for scientific good graphs, is actually very simple. There's only a few, but there's lots of graphs that you should not use because they're suboptimal, and the camembert is one.
Okay. So,
and even if you make it into brie, you still should not use it. The selection of the good graph is determined by what you are trying to show. And there are a couple of categories of things you want to show. And once you know what you want to show, there's one graph, sometimes two, that are best for that type of visualization.
And I know that you are now writing a book on data visualization for biomedical scientists. Could you please introduce it to our audience and what kind of message you want to translate in it?
Yes. So the book came about because in the last couple of years, I was a little bit to my surprise, I was successful in publishing 2 articles in the scientific literature, one on tables and one on graphs. And the graph one actually appeared in Annals of Rheumatic Disease. So I was very proud of that. And those articles were, if you want, a very concise summary of my experience and the advice that I have been giving for the last maybe 20 years or so. It's quite a while now that I'm working on this. So then when I was so successful, I thought, should I write more? Should I write a book? And first I thought, no, because there's actually quite a lot of good books already on on data visualization. There are very many good books. And then I realized there's not a good book on scientific data visualization, because most of the books are targeted towards a larger audience, an audience of business people or tech experts or all kinds of people. And the graphs they use and the tables they use are a little bit different from the ones we use. And the difficulties we have in our tables and graphs are also different. So then I thought, well, maybe I should try. And then I started writing, and COVID came along, so I kept on writing. And now it's a book. So it has these 2 key chapters, tables and graphs, which are much expanded from the article version, because there's lots of more things that I can tell about these topics. Then there is a chapter on something I call matrix graphs, which are the graphs with many little graphs inside. Basic scientists love them. And I thought they deserve a special chapter from me. And then there's a chapter on publication and presentation, which is a specific topic. And there's an introductory chapter to sort of outline what's going on. So that's the book. It's going to be very nice. I hope it will be ready somewhere in September, and then it will be on sale. You can buy it a physical book, or you can buy it as ebook.
Okay.
And it will be available through all the large platforms. And of course, cheapest through my own platform. So I will be making some advertisements, and I will send you an email as soon as it is available. Yeah.
Okay. And could you have some last tip and tricks on graphs and table for our young scientists who look at us, just to be more practical?
Yes. So regarding tables for publication, I think most of us are stuck with Word as the program. Everybody uses Word, so it's widely available, and it's quite good, but it's a little bit tricky. So if you want to make good tables, you do have to learn some tricks to do it right. Of course, many of them are described in the book. But if you just start with the word table, it can be quite frustrating if you want to make it nice. And I think the most important trick in Word, if you start a table, is to start without any formatting. Do not put any formatting in. Do not put special characters in. Do not put double line spacing in. Do not make crazy fonts. Nothing. Just as simple as possible.
Okay.
Because the moment you start adding stuff, it becomes a little bit difficult. So that's for tables.
Uh-huh.
And if you have complicated tables, start with putting every number in a separate column instead of many numbers together.
Okay.
Because when you put many numbers together, then you have to separate them and then it becomes difficult. If you use many small columns, then you can sort of fiddle around with them. But still, and in PowerPoint is sort of a simple word. So if you have a good table in Word and no formatting, then you can put it in PowerPoint and edit it there to make it good.
Okay.
So that's tables. And for graphs, it's a little bit more difficult. If you're serious about graphs, do not use Office programs. Do not. Not Excel, not PowerPoint, do not. Okay. If you're going to make one graph a year, you can try PowerPoint Excel. Because then the fact that these programs are not very well suited for the kind of graphs we make, you'll find out, and it will cost you 1 day instead of 1 hour. But that's just 1 day of your life. If you make many graphs, it starts to add up. All these days you could be sitting on the beach, but instead you're working in Excel.
Okay. And do you have some app you could advise us for the graph? Just for example?
There's 2 programs I have used a lot. And the one program is sort of, they have fallen silent. So they haven't updated it for quite a number of years. So I think the program is a little bit dead. I used to do a lot of graphs. That program is called Delta Graph. It may be revived. The program I use now a lot is Prism, GraphPad Prism.
Okay.
Which is very good, well suited for biomedical scientists. But you should try to get it through your university or as a scholar or student. Because if you have to pay as somebody, not in academia, it's quite expensive.
Okay.
So these are 2 programs. There are more programs, and I think any specialized graph program that says I am a graph program is going to be better than Office.
Okay. Okay, it's clear. And if you have, just to conclude, one message.
It would be, there's one thing we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
So I said clear vision, clear understanding.
Yeah.
That is to make it. But before you make it, you have to think about message, audience, setting.
Okay.
Because all these things interact. So if I'm going to go to a conference in Morocco for an audience with mixed language capabilities, so some of them are, almost native speaker English, some of them have mostly French and some English understanding, but only when they, carefully read papers. And some people are in between. My presentation of my study has to be different than when I go to the ACR.
Okay.
Same study, same data, same principle of graphs and tables, but I have to think about, okay, I have 15 minutes to get this audience up to speed with my study. And I throw out all these slides and I put in new slides and I change some things, and I maybe change some of the wordings in the heading of the table, or I make other words in my graph, because I know otherwise the message will not come across. So, and the setting is also very important. Is it a big hall for 6,000 people? Is it a computer screen? So message, audience, setting. vision, understanding. 5 words. That's all.
Thank you for this presentation on data visualization for biomedical scientists. I was really happy to have you here, and I will be glad to have you another time for another topic in writing, medical writing or data visualization on apm.com.
Thank you very much. Okay.